Welcome to another episode of Marketing Monday. You notice my background is different. Maybe you don't notice and you don't care, but I am in beautiful Southern California. If you were to look right out there, you'd see the beach, but if I showed you a picture, you wouldn't be able to see us. I am at the Senior Living 100 conference. Today, I'm talking to Kris Grazier with Sage Age, and we are talking all things creative relative to marketing. And so we had a pre-call on this and it was like, oh man, half an hour is not going to be enough time. So I'm really excited to get into it. But first, this. So, Kris, let's start with who you are, and mostly people should likely know Sage Age. You guys have been great sponsors, partners for us for a long time, but just in case they don't.
Sure. So Sage Age is a marketing agency and we specialize in only senior living. So we bring big ideas and integrated marketing campaigns to clients to help them boost occupancy, lead generation in their retirement communities.
Cool. And you are fairly new to Sage Age?
I am. I'm not new to the industry, but I've been at Sage Age now just 3 months, but already feel at home because there's so many people that I've worked with in the past and clients I've worked with in the past as well.
Cool. And what's your title, by the way? Just want to make sure we got that down.
Yes, Executive Creative Director.
Oh man, you're a person after my heart. Buzz, let's just actually start. What is creative?
Okay, so creative, when we think of it in non-marketing terms, is just everything out in the world: fashion, film, music, art, nature, anything that kind of inspires. But when we talk about creative in a marketing sense and creative strategy, it's really anchoring that creative for a business problem.
Okay, and so what's the business problem? And let me tell you why I want to dig a little deeper into this than we might. So I'm here at this conference, and we had a pitch fest yesterday, and there were 6 companies that got up and talked about their great new technology that they're selling. There was one thing in common with all of them. They never actually they said what they did, but they never actually talked about the problem they solved.
Yeah. So the problem is different depending on the client and the situation, but we always look at, what is the problem we're trying to solve first and foremost, and then what does the audience care about that we're targeting? So those 2 things are really important. You got to know the problem you're trying to solve and who you're talking to and what they care about in order to put communication out there that matters to your audience.
Okay, so let's actually talk about who the audiences typically are. I know I'm going a little off script here, which is the danger of always doing this with me, but I think the audience is super important.
I do too. And what's really exciting now, and one of the reasons I came back to senior living, is the audience is changing. So as we all know, the oldest boomers are 78, I believe, this year. And so they're getting to that age where they're considering retirement options. And for me, that was really exciting to start looking at our audience and what they care about. And I know that our clients are also looking at that as well. The old models aren't really working anymore. So people want more choice. They want different amenities, different things. They might even want an at-home option. So audience that we're talking to is people that are considering, how do I continue to live independently, or perhaps we're talking to their adult children and looking at, how can I make sure mom and dad continue to stay independent, but also healthy and safe?
Well, and I think the other opportunity, honestly, is a lot of those families that are shopping, sitting in the back of their head, is that it's not going to be that long until I'm going to need the same thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
And one of the, Welcome Home put out some data a couple of months ago where one of the surprising bits of information they uncovered was that the number of 65 to 70-year-olds who are inquiring about senior living has gone up like 10%. It's not, in absolute numbers, not a huge number, but it's something new. And I don't know what that means. Maybe you have some thoughts on what that means.
So you're saying that the age and income qualified people that are inquiring is going up?
Well, what I'm saying is the number of people who are age 65 to 75 is going up.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay,
like
yeah.
a much younger group, a much younger, it's still a small number, but still a much younger growth in this younger number.
Yes, and I think too, like the digital opportunities that we have and how we're able to measure who's inquiring as well is really exciting because with digital, we can pretty much see in real time what's happening. So,
Yeah.
what are people interested in? What do, where are they going? How are they getting their information? So, and then again, you mentioned like people getting older and thinking about it too. Hate to say it, but I just went through it as well with my family, and it was really eye-opening, even though I knew, I'd been in this business for a long time, but being a consumer was so different, and I saw how much I didn't know. So, it was my first time. I felt very, like, naive to the space as an adult daughter too.
And it's really hard, isn't it? As I talk to people, I've been a consumer a couple of times myself. I've talked to a number of friends who've been consumers for their parents or grandparents, and the message I get from everybody is that it's really hard and it's really confusing. And these are insiders.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I do have a theory that they also have higher expectation, perhaps, than the publics, and so maybe they're more critical. So I'm not sure it's as bad as we think it is. But I want to keep moving. So talk to me about creative strategy, and we sort of danced around it, but I want to just sort of wrap that up a little bit.
Yes. Okay, so with creative strategy, the way that I kind of look at it is when we think about like you always say like, oh, the creative people go do your magic, right? But the
Yeah.
magic doesn't really happen without a creative strategy, or at least the magic won't really land. So I kind of think of creative strategy. If creative is the magic, then creative strategy is the wand or the spark. It's that spark, that integrated idea that's based on research about our audience, our business problem, and also the competition. So we need to know what the competition is doing. And then we find that white space where we can win. So what I mean by that is, everybody else is kind of saying the same thing. We're going to say something that's a little bit different and memorable that connects with our audience. And that's the creative strategy behind how we express the idea.
Okay. And so you go through this, then what happens?
So what we do first, and we can actually do both. So one of the great things about Sage Age is oftentimes client partners will come to us and they need immediate leads. They need, activity. So we can quickly put tactics out in the market. We're very good at that. But what we're also very good at is we understand and we dive deep into their audience and their differentiators. So we'll do competitive audits. We'll, tour the community, talk to maybe do focus groups. And then how we build that is we will land on sort of what's the audience insight. It's different for every community, believe it or not. So it's almost like we think we know this audience, but it is different for each market and maybe exactly where they are in the journey. And then the brand benefit, what does that community offer? And then what's the integrated idea? So your question was about what happens after we get to the integrated idea. So the integrated idea might be just a simple statement that isn't necessarily a copy line, but it inspires how that community will come to life potentially. So the first step that my team will do is we'll concept and we'll come up with several different ways. Maybe it's a range of 3 ways we come to the client with an idea, like a visual and verbal expression of that idea. And a lot of times we'll try to push ourselves and help push our clients so they can stand out in the space. So it might be like what we like to call mild to spicy. So we'll have one idea that, okay, yep, kind of seen it before. We got a little twist on it. Another one that's maybe in the middle, and another one that's maybe a little bit further out there that nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah, and so you're probably too early for you to really know, but I'd love to get a feel, maybe in 6 months or a year when you've done a bunch of these, and how many people actually choose spicy. I'm going to guess the number is pretty small because we are so risk adverse, but I think spicy would be the place to be. It would be my place to be for sure.
Yeah. And the funny thing is about spicy, sometimes it ends up, maybe you don't go all the way, but maybe like we call it Frankenstein. Maybe there's a way that like, okay, the middle one feels better for us, but there's a little bit of spicy that we like. So let's
Yeah.
put that in there. And maybe that shows up in social or somewhere where you can have a little bit more freedom with the audience.
And that becomes just an experiment, right? Because ultimately you've got to test all this stuff and make I mean, you guys are experts, so you're going to have a really good idea. But I'm sure sometimes you get surprised at the stuff that works that you weren't that thrilled about, and maybe some stuff that you think is going to be great and isn't, right?
Right.
And I guess that's just part of the creative process. So one of the things we talked a little bit about was kind of big ideas. And so I would love to, I think I've got some pictures of what that looks like, but from your perspective, what's a big idea?
So a big idea. Okay, so thinking about like one of the things we kind of look at is idea versus execution. And both are really important because sometimes a big idea, which is kind of that unifying idea, actually appears in the way it's delivered to people. So, like, for example, one that we probably all remember is the Domino pizza tracker. Do you remember that one where you could actually go on and see how fast your pizza was coming?
Yeah.
So that's an example of a big idea because it's something that engages the consumer, became kind of a thing, a standard in the industry, and kind of put Domino in a way that Domino's showed that we're getting there. We care about fast and we care about delivery. So a big idea is something that's kind of unifying idea that makes your brand stand out.
So another example of that might be like the way Red Bull does all these extreme experiences that they drop a Red Bull can into, right? So, what might that big idea look like in senior living? Can you
Okay,
give me
so
a couple of examples?
yes, and a few that I was thinking about that I really was proud of this campaign, and I think it could actually be done almost anywhere because we run into this problem a lot. But we had this older community, and of course, with being an older community, it's dated, right? And there's a lot of new competition, and you're wondering, okay, maybe we don't have something happening right now with an expansion. How can we put something out there that feels compelling? And one of the things that came up as we were talking, even amongst ourselves, is, oh, yeah, my aunt lives there. Oh, yeah, my uncle lives there. And then it was like, oh, yeah, friends live there. And we know that friends of friends moved to communities. So this line struck us, and it was everyone knows someone that lives at Community X. And what that did was it suddenly took that maybe negative and put it on its head in that, okay, the new competitors can't say everyone knows someone that lives there. And there's a reason behind that because it's reputable, because it has great care, because it has great lifestyle. And it became sort of the integrated idea for how we would market to people, maybe testimonials, maybe we were out there in the community and we tout how much a part of the community this retirement community is, and referrals and all these things that are connected tactically to this one big idea called everyone knows someone.
Oh man, I love that so much, and I think that it has so much application in everything that we do with marketing for vendors, and that is really really huge. So one of the things that I wonder about a lot is when you come up with these new ideas, most of us like safe, and most of us like to have stuff the way we've already done it. And honestly, we're willing to sacrifice peak performance because of comfort. How do you get people to actually sort of buy into these new big ideas? Maybe we can, I don't know, can we talk? I don't know whether we can talk about the everybody knows somebody campaign. Maybe that's a good example. Maybe you don't want to talk about that. I'm going to leave that up to you.
No, I think I'll start kind of with some of the things that I feel like have to be in place for the clients to buy into big ideas, and then maybe a recent example. So I feel like a collaborative process is really important with clients. Like even this morning, we did a check-in. So we're going to do a presentation of new positioning in a few weeks. And we decided, let's do a check-in just to make sure like what we think we know and what you think you know, and what we're starting to discover is the same. So to that kind of builds, that trust and that rapport, and that we're all kind of going along together instead of a big ta-da. And then it's like, wait, how did you get there? We definitely look at data and research, and we even challenge what we think we know. So a lot of us have been here a while in this space, and to discover something new, we try to share that with our clients and make sure we're all kind of seeing that trend. And then we do review results monthly. So a lot of times, we'll do direct mail and other digital tactics, and that can easily be pivoted. Like if you put direct mail out there and it's not hitting, you can do a follow-up pretty easily and pretty quickly, or you can change out pretty quickly as well.
Yeah. So go.
Nope. Go.
Okay. So what's good creative? Maybe what's bad creative?
Yes. Okay. So we hear a lot, and even like I say, I've been guilty before to saying on my team, we need to do good creative. And they're like, well, what does that really mean? And really, for me, like good creative gets results. Like a lot of times, there's award-winning creative that's very flashy, but really what you want to do is just make sure that it's landing with the consumer and it moves them to the next step. And I feel like a way to really try to ensure that is that it has a hook to it. So one of the things that we really try to do is when we come up with an idea, kind of pressure test whether it's a category idea or an idea that feels ownable. So like a category idea might be based on a human truth that adult children are worried about their parents, right? So we know that, and that's going to be the same for any community or any solution. But with a hook, you might find a way to tie it to the community's name or something visual about the community or a differentiator. And a recent example of that is we put an idea out there where the community had the name Point in it. And so we used, like it was POINTE. And we use that as a way to, point is very powerful, right? It means pointed to a new solution. What's the point? Point to a new direction. So we use the name in a really interesting way in copy so that whenever people saw that campaign, they would understand that it's this community and not community X.
That's cool. And the other thing I was thinking as you were talking is that there are times where your goal is to meet the audience, right? Not your own needs. So there might be something that you fall in love with that doesn't work for your community, doesn't work for your audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there might be some times where there's some things that your audience loves that you hate. And that's become really hard. How do you work with that?
So I think too, it's important to remember that it isn't about us, right? Like we should never, I think that creative has to have a voice, but it should be the voice of the community. So, I've had so many ideas killed, which is, I think, part of it. It just makes you work harder and stronger. And a big joke that my team has about me too is I never throw anything away. So it'll get killed, but I'll tell you, it'll be back somewhere. And so, like in this space, you're doing so many ideas and things that if something breaks your heart, it'll be okay. It's a new day the next day.
That's right. Yeah. And I was actually listening to a podcast this morning as I was getting in my hotel room, getting ready to come out. And I was talking to an expert and a thought leader, my college professor. And he was saying that one of the things that he believes is that people have put too much value on ideas. He says ideas are cheap. There are a million ideas out there. And so you take ideas, you love ideas, you test ideas, but you also have to be willing to throw ideas away. So we've got all this idea, this big idea, and this I'm really fascinated about hearing, because I think we see this with our customers, that our sponsors, that work with Foresight, is how do you actually translate these big ideas into copy and other materials that are going to resonate and work?
Yes. So we think about the medium for sure. So we think about, is it direct mail? Is it a website? Is it social? And you have to have sort of, you'll want the brand, the consistency with the brand, so that everything's leveraging and everything's going in the same direction, but you'll want to write for the medium. So
Yep.
if we have the opportunity, what we typically do is we'll put together a simple message architecture, and it's almost like, okay, what does the brand stand for? And as an example, like Coke stands for happiness, right? Anything they do in any medium, it's about happiness, where like Apple stands for creativity. So it looks different and it expresses itself different, but it's always anchored in that brand promise. So like for our audience, it might be something like choice. So
Right.
if your brand promise is about choice, and that's what you offer, then you deliver that at every touch point. So it might be in a direct mail piece where you're inviting them to lunch, you give them a choice of lunch. Or if it's like a staycation, a choice of activities that they can do. Maybe they come to the website and there's dynamic content that is based on their choices, like we all expect when we go to Amazon and other websites. So to continue to bring that choice home. And then from a copy standpoint, copy that makes it their choice, not our choice.
Right. Well, my head is sort of spinning on this, and I'm thinking, there are these kids' books where you can pick an adventure, and you come to these crossroads, and you pick this, and then it sends you on a different way, or that, and it sends you in a different way. And I'm thinking you could even do something like that on a website, right? Where visiting your website would actually be as much, you'd be getting information, but it'd be sort of this adventure that could be really fun, right?
Yeah, choose your own adventure. That'd be great. Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what that would look like. That would be really good. So we've sort of talked about all these bits and pieces and starts. How do you sort of turn this into an integrated campaign to make it all work together? Because at the end of the day, it's about getting more residents into your community, more of the right residents in, so that they can have better lives, and of course can help your occupancy and bottom line.
Yes. So we work, of course, on at Sage Age, we have our client service, we have market research, we have digital. So we have our teams that are real experts in the space and know how to deliver the tactics. So from a creative perspective, we're going to understand, again, our message, and then we're going to understand from our colleagues how that's going to be delivered. And one of the things we think about is like the environment that the audience is consuming this information in. And one recent example would be like for an assisted living community, we know we're targeting ACIs, and we know that digital display it works. And it's important to have that in an integrated marketing campaign. So that our digital display can be more effective, we think about, okay, what's the situation? Adult child influencer is worried about mom or dad. They're probably Googling at night. They're up at night. They're not sleeping. So let's serve them an ad that feels like it's something that's not intrusive, but something that actually is helpful. So maybe the line is, instead of searching, here's a solution, which drives them to a mobile-friendly landing page that lets them get some information. Maybe there's a chat on it where they're not in a point where they want to be talking to somebody, but they just want some information to feel like they have a next step. So that's an example of, like, as part of an integrated campaign, how can you make sure every tactic is working for your audience, what they want and how they want to get the information.
Yeah, so this is really fascinating to me, because I think there's this ongoing debate that I know marketing people have, that I assume you have as you serve communities, is that, how do you don't want to be so soft that you're not selling, right? But you don't want to be so pushy that you drive people away and just feel like all they care about is the money. And so, I mean, the most obvious example where we see this tension is whether you put pricing on, right? And I'm not sure I want to go into this. Pricing is a specific topic today. We could probably talk about that for half an hour. But I think the question I find myself wondering is, how do you make sure that it's the right amount of pressure is not the right word, maybe the right amount of selling versus helpfulness?
Yes. Well, one of the things we really try to do is always have a next step. So it doesn't necessarily have to be right away, signing up for a tour. And in fact, that's probably not helpful because that's going to waste the time of the sales team. So
Yeah.
we look at how many touch points, which is a lot, how many touch points it might take, and always have a next step, a logical next step that everything reaches to an action to kind of move them along and nurture them. And then, when they're ready, to push them along, but not to, I guess, take them somewhere where they're not ready for, because that's not going to have a good result.
Right. And so much of it is about building probably mostly digital, but building a digital relationship with people. So I guess one of the things that I think sometimes people really struggle with is, I've been doing this stuff over and over and over and over and over again. How do I get to fresh ideas?
So, like I mentioned before, we are really excited about where the industry is going. And so there's so much rich, I guess, inspiration that we can pull from, because we're thinking about now how these, our audience, which is the older boomers, or sorry, the oldest boomers, and also their adult children and influencers, they have new attitudes. So that's a lot of new, different types of messaging and new types of products, and new technology and media. And, we know that our audience is pretty savvy with digital and social and other forms of media. So is there new ways that we can deliver in media that we didn't do before, maybe the previous generation wasn't ready for? And then we really look at what the most disruptive brands are doing, that are winning. Like, even if it's not something that relates specifically to our audience, there might be something in that idea that we can repurpose for senior living. So try to look at the trends, what's happening out there, and just kind of share information with ourselves and our clients.
Yeah. Have we talked about Retirement House? I don't remember whether we talked about Retirement House. So it's this made up channel, two young guys with a creative agency, and they sort of were looking around. They were trying to create a channel that they could become an influencer channel. And they realized that sort of everything is super youngish. And so they went out and hired 6 actors who were in their, I guess, 70s and 80s to play this sort of role of being best friends. And they do these little skits. They put out content pretty much every day. And when I first ran across it, I thought, oh, this is a senior living community. And I'm watching this and going, oh man, those are the people that I want to go live with when I get to move into a senior living community. And some of it, honestly, is too racy. It would be inappropriate. They have a big young audience that watches it. But I think that the thing that I think those are the kinds of things that you're talking about as you look at that stuff and you say, how can I learn from that to go out and do my own thing that's appropriate for my business?
Right. And really, like, when you think about like ideas that are really out there, dumb ideas, like one of the things that I've learned with concepting, even if just say it, put it out there. And if it's dumb, let's then see how we can like turn it on its head and make it, a smart idea. So that's another great way. Like, don't limit that thinking of, when you're in that ideation phase, don't limit it. And then you
That's
come
right.
back and sort of
Yeah.
press your
Yeah.
chest.
So how do you create that environment where people can just sort of free flow like that?
Well, definitely with our clients, we want our team to feel like clients are open, and really like my job and then my creative director's job is to set that environment. So we make sure that our people can do our best work, and then we kind of deal with, okay, let's figure out, do we need to have a meeting to really discuss, like, are you missing information? Do we need to talk with the clients to get a little bit more insight from them? And so really, like, the creative team should be able to come up with their ideas with some guidance from, the creative director. And then again, just a lot of collaboration with our clients and really feeling good about the information that we have with our market research.
So I'm going to ask. This is a surprise question, so I don't know. You may not have you may not have something outside. What's the craziest thing you've ever come up with?
Oh, let's see. Oh my gosh, I might not have an answer today for you. Oh, let me just tell you one that I think was really brilliant that never saw the light of day.
Okay.
And again, it's not actually in this space, it's in healthcare, but maybe there's something that we can apply.
Yep.
So you probably see on TV a lot the psoriasis commercials. Everybody's talking about 100% clearance, right? You've seen the ones that come on your TV every night.
Yeah.
And we had an idea where we turned it on its head and we talked about 0%. So like 0% of me is giving myself to psoriasis, and the emotional aspect. And think about, like, instead of showing, like a woman in a sundress, let's show close-up of skin. Let's show close-up of skin of every color, because another thing with psoriasis is it does affect different skin types. And that's another thing that needs to change in the industry. So again, we wanted to go out there really bold with a whole new position, like almost a paradigm shift. And I would love to bring those kinds of ideas to senior living.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So we are about out of time. Kris, has been a great conversation. We'll have to do it again soon, maybe next month. And I love creatives. I love just brainstorming and talking about the things that are working and trying new ideas. We love experiments, and so I appreciate your passion for creative and these new things. And so with that, we will see you. Well, the next time I'll see everybody is on Friday for Foresight TV. And Abby will be on with Tech Tuesday tomorrow. Today's Monday, right? Yep, it is. So anyway, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your week. Kris, thank you so much for your passion and all that you do.
Thank you.